boys and girls, students of Buddhist Sunday School, students of Dhamma classes, parents, grandparents, teachers of Buddhist Sunday School and Dhamma classes. Good morning. May you all be well, happy, and peaceful. Now, for this lesson, we are going to have another story from the Jataka titled The Talkative Tortoise. Now, this is a very simple story, but it has good moral lessons. Now, as you know, in such stories, the Jataka stories that talk about the previous births of the Buddha as a Bodhisattva, the animals can talk, right? And they sort of behave in many ways like human beings. Now, the important thing is to learn the Dhamma lessons. So we are going to narrate or read to you the story and explain and comment on the story. And then at the end, we come to the most important aspect, and that is to learn some Dhamma lessons that have a bearing, that have a connection with the story, right? So as usual, we will launch the PowerPoint, but before that, let us check the setup, right? To make sure that it is correct. Okay, the setup is all right. So now let us launch the PowerPoint. You see the cover slide, the talkative tortoise. It's taken from actually the Jataka stories, but many other traditions have also used this similar story. Now, this story, as I said, has good moral lessons, and it concerns basically these animals. Two wild geese, you can say in Bahasa Malaysia is angsa, and then the tortoise, kura-kura lah. So you can see the animated images, the two white wild geese, and you know geese actually can fly, right? They can fly, so they belong to the group of birds lah. Whereas the tortoise is a reptile like the crocodile. It cannot fly, and it can actually live in the pond, in the area where you have water, just as you feed the tortoise when you go to Keloksi temple in Penang, remember? And it's supposed to have a very long life, a tortoise. But then it moves very, very slowly, as you know. It's of the same family as the turtle, and it moves very, very slowly. You might have heard of the fable, the tortoise and the hare, the race between these two creatures. Now let us go on to the actual story. Once upon a time, Brahmadatta was king of Benares, and the Bodhisattva was born to one of the king's court, grew up, and became the king's advisor in all things human and divine. Now, let me explain to you and give you some interesting information. Now, Brahmadatta, name of king. So during that time, he was king of this very ancient city called Benares. Present day, it is now called Varanasi. Now, Benares actually was the second oldest city. Was the second oldest city in the world. The first one is in Syria called Damascus. Damascus is the oldest in the Middle East. So this Benares is the second oldest. Now, the Bodhisattva means the Buddha to be. He would one day, after many, many lives in the cycle of rebirth, he will be reborn as Siddhartha Gautama. That is the stories. These are the stories from the Jataka. And so in this life, he was born into the king's court. The kings are in the court. They have the noble people, they have the workers, they have the administrators and so on. So he was born into this area, probably one of the noble people. And he was a very, very smart one. And he grew up in the king's court, the king's palace area there. And then the king, seeing he was so smart, made him the advisor to advise him on all things of the world, as well as things about the gods and the heavens. By the way, this is actually the picture, the animated GIF of Varanasi. This is a modern Varanasi. Last time it was not so developed, but many things still quite the same, like the river Ganges. You could see the boat. When we went there, we actually could cruise along the river Ganges. This shows you the city of Varanasi. Last time was known as Benares. This picture actually just a painting to show the Bodhisattva was the advisor to the king. So it's just, a picture, a painting. But the thing about this story is this king was a very, very talkative person. Right? He liked to talk on and on, sometimes, not really important, just empty talk, frivolous talk. And when he talked, there was no chance for any other person to get in the word. So nobody could have a chance to speak because he kept on talking. He didn't want to listen because he was the king. So the advisor knew that this was not good, right? Not to listen to people and then to keep on talking, sometimes foolishly, unnecessary. But then he was thinking, I have to wait for an opportunity to send him the message to tell this king of his weakness, his bad habit, and to put a stop to this unnecessary, foolish talking, much talking. So he was all the while waiting for an opportunity, right? So I hope you understand this part here. This is just an animated image of the king. Now let's go on to the next slide. Now, not far, a distance away, not very far from the palace area, in the region of the Himalaya. Now there dwelt a tortoise in a certain pond in the region of the Himalaya. Now the Himalaya range, right, in Nepal now, is a set of these mountains, beautiful mountains in the Himalayas. And I think one of the very famous mountains is Mount Everest. It's supposed to be the highest mountain, already conquered by many people. The first people to climb this highest mountain, Mount Everest, was Tenzin. There's this Nepalese, and Sir Edmund Hillary. That was history. Now in that area also, there were these two young wild geese. You could see the picture of the geese. And they were wild geese. They could fly. And they would search for food, maybe little birds, or sometimes they could even land on the ground to see any small insects or whatever for the food. So they met up with the third tortoise. They met up with the tortoise and they became friends, struck up an acquaintance. That means they became friends. So they got to know one another. So they became friends. And in time to come, by and by means over a period of time, or after some time, or after a short while. So they became very close friends. They were very, very good friends already. So they would meet and would chit-chat. Then one day, the two geese talked to the tortoise. Friend tortoise, we have a lovely home in the Himalaya on a plateau of Mount Chittakuta in a cave of gold. Will you come with us? So this geese told the tortoise that they have a home in one of the mountain areas of the Himalaya, and on top of the mountain, plateau means the flat part of the mountain, usually on top, the plateau, the flat area there, and the name of the mountain, Mount Chittakuta. He said, you know, we live in the cave in that area, and the cave, you have gold, you know. So will you like to visit us? Will you come with us? There was an invitation by the geese to the turtle. You could see these two animated images. Now let us go on. Wow, that would be wonderful, the tortoise said. But how can I get that? The tortoise was very excited, right? And this tortoise actually is one also like the king. He like to talk, you know. You on and he say, "Wow, so nice! What up? Hope you have." You talk many other things I didn't put here, lah. So of course the tortoise cannot fly, isn't it? And the geese live in the mountainous area of the Himalaya and at the plateau of one of the mountains. So it's higher up. So how can the tortoise climb up the mountain? So the guy say, "Oh, I would like to go, but how can I get there?" Then one of the geese replied, "Oh, we will take you if only you can keep your mouth shut and say not a word to anybody." Actually, the geese also knew that this tortoise is a talkative tortoise. It likes to talk on and on and on, you know, right? So the geese accepted him as a friend. Say, "Okay, we will bring you to our home in the cave, where you have gold there, provided you keep your mouth shut when we are traveling there. And not only that, you must not chit-chat with others and tell them other birds, you know, they might come to our place." And the geese have enemies also. Eagles or, you know, big birds and so on can go to the place and cause havoc and trouble. So you say you must not say about this to anybody. "Oh yes, I can do that. I can keep secrets. Take me along quickly. I'm very excited. And I remember what you say to keep my mouth shut." The tortoise exclaimed. So the geese agreed. So what did they do? They got ready a stick, right? Now you can see the picture here. They got ready a stick and they asked the tortoise to bite onto the center part of the stick. And then the two geese with their beaks you can say, you can see here. So the geese took hold of the two ends. So in other words, they bit on the two ends. So which means now the tortoise could hang on the stick, isn't it? To be lifted and transported to the mountain. Ingenious, isn't it? So you see, that's why the geese warned the tortoise not to make any sound, not to talk, but to keep quiet during the journey there. So you see, but let us see what happened to this tortoise. So let us move on to the next one. So the geese flew on and on. So a time came where the geese reached the area of the king's palace. So the geese were flying, of course, fetching the tortoise, flying, and they had arrived at the space above the palace of the king at Benares, which means that they had arrived at the area of the king's palace in the city of Benares. So of course, out in the open, you have, maybe like a ground where people can play or go to, or maybe a cemented, actually usually will be a huge area, of cemented, or maybe you get hard surface outside just the palace, and the children would go there to play. Then also there were the court people, some adults also there. So the two geese fetching the tortoise on the stick, right, at the center of the stick, were flying. The three of them, he could not fly. So the two geese were flying, carrying fetching carrying the tortoise. So the village children saw this, so they're very excited. So they shouted very, very loudly, exclaimed very loudly, "Look, look, there are these two geese carrying a tortoise by a stick. The tortoise cannot fly, man." That's bad English. Cannot fly one. The tortoise cannot fly. It is useless. And added some other words to make fun of the tortoise. You see, the tortoise can only walk very slowly. The geese can fly. So that's how the geese is carrying the tortoise. Of course, the tortoise high above the courtyard heard this. So when the tortoise heard what the children were saying, it got angry. It was irritated. He did not like what the children were saying. So in his mind, he was already planning to say these words. He was planning already, he would say this. He would cry out, "You kids, if my friends do carry me, what is that to you? You silly ones." So he was actually in the mind talking already, scolding, "You silly children. You think you're very smart? If my good friends want to carry me, they don't want to carry you. So what? You are very unlucky. I can be carried." So he was planning all this. Then, of course, when the mind is operating, the next thing is the speech comes. So he decided to speak and to scold the children. So what did he do? He opened his mouth to start to talk already. But the moment he opened his mouth to talk, what happens? He has to let go of the stick from between his teeth. In other words, he let go of the stick already. He was not biting onto the stick. So of course, what would happen? He fell into the open courtyard, a very hard surface, He fell there, and the body was crushed. Some accounts say that the body smashed into two, or actually it was crushed, it was killed. Even the tortoise, with a very hard shell, because it was at a height. It was at a height, so when he fell down, he hit on the very hard surface. Maybe you have rocks also. So his body was crushed. So died. So the tortoise was killed because he opened his mouth, wanted to talk. Talkative tortoise was killed. Wow, what an uproar, huru-hara. There was some confusion, a lot of noise, and the children, tortoise died already. Want to come and see. So of course, there were the court people, the workers and so on. They had to go to the tortoise and would try to remove it, and probably I don't know whether they would cut off the tortoise and eat the tortoise flesh, because some people, eat the tortoise flesh also. No, I don't know. But anyway, or maybe they just wanted to bury the tortoise, whatever. So you see, this shows that the tortoise was starting to fall already because he let go of the center of the stick. So let us go on and come to the important Dharma messages. So the children kept on exclaiming or crying and shouting out, "A tortoise has fallen in the courtyard and broken in two already." Or some would shout, the tortoise fell and crushed his body already. He's dead now. So not far away, the king with the other people in the palace or in the court, together with the Bodhisattva. Remember I told you the Bodhisattva, the wise advisor to the king. So all of them came up. Since there was a commotion, all right, there was an uproar, the shouting and the yelling and all talking and so on. So the king came out with the wise men together with other people in the court, from the court, his palace ground, in other words. And then the king saw for himself what happened to the tortoise. The body was crushed already, broken into two or maybe more parts or so. So he asked the Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva, as I said just now, Pusat, we say in Chinese, Buddha to be after many, many lives. So he asked the Bodhisattva this question. He was a very, very wise person, Bodhisattva, full of compassion, full of wisdom. So the king asked the advisor, "Wise sir, what made this creature fall? What happened?" They did not know. Now the Bodhisattva, probably got some psychic powers. He could know what happened actually far away, not that far away, but anyway, a distance away, what happened among the two geese and the tortoise. So let's see what happened next. Before the advisor explained to the king, he was thinking to himself really, now is my time. For a long time, there's a word missing here. For a long time, I have been wishing to admonish the king about unnecessary talking and heedlessness. Actually, there's a mistake in the sentence. I check it 2 times and yet miss this sentence grammar structure. You cannot say for a long. You can say for a long time or for long. Then you don't put right? So anyway, you learn something which is my mistake. I overlooked this. As some of the sentences I extracted from the story, then I did some editing. So it should be for a long time I have been wishing to admonish. Admonish means to warn, right? To reprimand and warn, and at the same time also to advise, to warn the king about the danger of unnecessary talking and heedlessness. Heedlessness means carelessness, mindlessness. To be heedless means to be very, very careless. So don't talk carelessly and foolishly, unnecessarily. So he said, for a long time I have wanted to advise this. Now the time has come. So then he told the king what had happened with regard to the tortoise and the geese. Right from the start, as now we had the story, isn't it? Because the Bodhisattva is supposed to have a fantastic mind. He could know, he could read the mind of others. So he actually knew about what happened. So the wise man explained to the king. So after just telling the story, then he gave again these very important points. So he told the king, no doubt the truth is this, he said. The tortoise and the geese became friendly. So they were good friends. So the tortoise wanted or agreed to go to the place. The geese invited the tortoise to the home in the Himalaya mountains, isn't it? So the geese must have meant to carry him to the Himalaya in this way, as you can see the picture again, right? So the geese made a stick, or maybe got hold of a stick, He went to search in the forest and then asked the tortoise, explain. And so made him hold a stick between his teeth and then lifted him into the air. But he was warned, the tortoise was warned not to open the mouth and speak. But then what happened is, over the ground, Your Majesty, reached an area of the palace. He must have heard some remarks from the children watching below. He was not happy hearing what the children talk about him, So he wanted to scold the children. He wanted to tell them off, to really scold them or, give some not so nice words, right? So he was not able to keep his mouth shut, and so he started to talk, He must have let go of the stick, and so he must have fallen from the sky. That's how, you see, the tortoise crushed to death, and that's how he died. Because the king asked him to explain, so he explained everything very, very clearly. So the king listened very intently, and what happened? After the wise advisor had related the circumstances of the death of the tortoise, that means after the advisor had explained in quite good details how the tortoise was killed or came to his death, then he added these very important teaching points to the emperor. He added that those who set no limit on their talking are bound to come to misfortune, as what had happened to the tortoise. He did not tell the, like you emperor, you also like that. That is very rude, isn't it? So he was a wise, compassionate, so he wouldn't say like that. But he just told about the story, and then the message was there. People who have no limit on their talking. That means over talk, very talkative, speaking unnecessary very often, sometimes foolishly, carelessly. So one day, bound to meet with some dukkha, some unfortunate thing, a tragedy like this, unless foolish talking, not mindful, that was killed. And that was the message. So the king, very smart king also, except that he got this bad habit or this weakness of liking to talk unnecessarily, talkative. So the king was thinking out, wow, this Bodhisattva was actually sending a message to me, that I also over talking, so dangerous, one day something will happen to me. So from then on, he decided to change his ways, to get rid of the habit of over talking. Of course, when a person needs to talk, then he talks. If not, then he should listen also to other people. And there are times where he has to just keep quiet. That's why there is a proverb, silence is golden. When there is time to talk, when it's time to talk, then we talk. When it's time to shut up, then we shut up. It's time to listen, then we listen, isn't it? But this king, he likes to talk on, and other people have no chance to talk. So he didn't listen to other people. That is a bad habit, isn't it? Not listening to people. So that was this king. So that was the end. That's the end of the story, actually. The king changed his ways, and it was due to the wise advisor who taught him this important life lesson. You can say Dhamma message also. So now let us look at the Dhamma aspect, very important. And this one is at a higher level, but I think you can understand it if I explain. Now, in the scripture, the holy books, in one of the holy books, the Buddha gave this very important Dhamma message. It's about 5 keys, the 5 important things that we must take note to speak rightly. The 5 keys to right speech. So what did the Buddha say? Here you can see the picture. The Buddha for so many years, he was enlightened at 35, he passed away at 80. So for 45 years, he was preaching so many, more than 5,000 teachings and discourses or suttas. So and on this occasion, according to the scriptures, the Buddha told the monks, he said, monks, a statement endowed with 5 factors is well spoken, not ill spoken. Now it says a sentence or a speech that is filled with these 5 things is considered well spoken, good speech, not badly spoken speech, or not poor or bad speech. This is of course good, this is not good. Badly spoken, poor speech that will have bad results. This is well spoken. And what type of speech is that? And what are the 5 things that we have to note? He said, the speech is blameless. Other people will not blame you. They will not be hurt, right? They will not feel bad listening to you speaking that way. And all the wise people will not find fault with what is being spoken because it is well-spoken speech, no weaknesses and no faults. So this is the well-spoken. So what are the 5 things that we have to note before we speak and will be considered good speech? Let's look at these 5 points. Very important, you have to bear in mind. Firstly, it must be spoken at the right time. Some people, many people now speak things at the wrong time. They speak in the library, we're supposed to be very quiet. And then when 2 people, adults, are talking and discussing, they butt in and just interrupt, speaking at the wrong time. A person is very, very angry, and then he tries to give the advice at the wrong time. He's very, very angry. He hasn't cooled down yet, no point talking. Another example, the person is so very hungry, the poor man is so very hungry, and you start telling him about Dharma lessons. That is the wrong time. You should give him some food to eat first. So many instances where you have to speak at the right time. And the other point is, we must always speak the truth. Don't lie. Lying is a break of the precept. So that's the second point. And then the third one, it is spoken in a gentle, very affectionate, kind manner, not shouting, right? Not in a loud, very unbecoming voice or abusive voice. That is not good. It must be very gentle, full of kindness. That is the gentle speech, affectionate, like very caring like that. Just as your parents speak to you affectionately, full of love and care. So that is the point, very important. And then what is spoken must benefit others. It is spoken beneficially. No point giving all those gossip, rumors, empty talk that does not benefit anybody. No point speaking those things. And then the last point is, it must be spoken with metta. It must be spoken with goodwill or loving kindness for the benefit of other people. Because in your heart, in your mind, you have this metta, good intention, isn't it? So that is a very important thing. And this is taken from the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddhist scripture 5.198. So I hope you remember these 5 things before we speak. Firstly, we must speak at the proper time, timely, at the suitable time, not just simply speak anytime you want when the situation is not suitable. Right? Like examination, silence, so you don't simply go and speak. Right? So this requires wisdom. That means we must think before the words come out from our mouth, whether it's the right time or not. Then you must speak truthfully. Thirdly, speaking gently, kindly, very caring, with affection. And then the things that you are going to say must benefit other people. If the things you are going to say are useless, rumors or gossip that don't benefit, and some the words like harsh words or talk bad about other people, not only not benefiting, causing harm, making people angry or quarrel, making people quarrel and even fight. That is terrible, right? Then, of course, the last point must always have metta in your heart, right? When we speak something. So that is a very important teaching. So in this case, the story here, of course, you see, the talkative turtle, so often speaking things unnecessary. Like when he was the most dangerous part, when he was very angry, irritated already. Right? So he wanted to scold, isn't he? So it was not the mind of goodwill already. The mind was angry, irritated. He wanted to scold the children. And he forgot that he was asked not to speak by the geese. In fact, he should know. If the mind is not angry and the mind is very composed, wise, cannot speak. You speak, you open your mouth, then you let go of the stick, you fall to death. So you see, the things are terrible, isn't it? In the mind. So he had in the mind already no gentleness, no kindness, no metta. So you see what's the consequence? Speaking at the wrong time, the right time maybe when let's say if the tortoise happens to meet the children, then he can explain nicely lah. But of course it doesn't happen that way. So let us now go to the most important slide. That is slide number 10. The important Dharma lessons. Now, the 5 points have a bearing in one way, sometimes not so direct, but anyway, they are important Dharma teachings. So we have to discuss this at greater length. Now, let us look at the first one. We must not talk unnecessarily or foolishly. That, of course, is a very important thing. Talking unnecessarily, wasting your energy, wasting other people's time, and sometimes having the wrong speech or stupid speech, Many people speak foolishly, You find people who are very qualified from the universities also say stupid things. We must always think before we speak. To always ask ourselves whether it's the truth, whether it can benefit people, and it's the proper time to say or not. And we must check that in our heart we have good intentions with metta, right? The speech that is bringing benefit. All this we have to check before we just simply blah, blah, blah out. And that is what happens in our country also. Many even politicians, so-called professional people, speaking the wrong things. And then after that, other people will sue the person in court already. Many times you read about these sort of things. So how important right speech is. So that is this important Dharma message. Do not over talk. Do not talk unnecessarily. And then foolishly, heedlessly, carelessly. So that is a very important thing. But if you need to speak, then of course you speak. So on the other hand, there are people who don't like to speak when they have to speak. Like for example, they do not understand certain things. They don't want to ask. Actually, the Buddha has talked about this. How is it that some people are born very smart, very intelligent, very wise? Because they ask when they don't understand, for example, important things in the Dhamma. So if a person has that curious mind and he wants to learn and he knows when to speak, so he always asks. So you have to speak. This is a case of unnecessary speaking. On the other hand, if a person always like a dumb person, it's also not good. You don't ask when you are doubtful or uncertain. then how can you learn? So the Buddha explained how to be smart in the future lives. Let us now look on the next one. We must always be patient to listen to others. That is very important. I have come across so many friends, and nowadays so many students also. They ask me to explain certain things. Before I can finish, they will cut in already. They will talk about their own things. Even old people also, like many old people are like that. Like sometimes when I phone some of my members who are above 60 years old already, I have to tell them certain important messages. But before I can even give the messages, the fellow will start talking already, interrupt, brother, like that. So he doesn't listen to the message over the phone. So then how can he solve the problems? So to be able to listen is important. So sometimes when I speak to the students, of course I do a lot of talking, but I always remember this. I must make sure that they have the opportunity. So I always ask, do you have any questions? Would you like to say something? You can cut in whenever I give a Dhamma discussion, because you are not clear, you cut in, okay. But then many just remain quiet, then you don't learn. So speak after you have listened. And when the time comes for you to speak, that was I give them the opportunity. The time they don't want to speak. So if I also don't speak, so what do we do? Look at each other in silence. It's ridiculous also, isn't it? So listening skill is very important. In the scriptures, the Buddha said already, if you want to attain a very high state in your mind, you must listen very, very attentively, mindfully, with good concentration to a good Dhamma teaching. The authentic, the original Dhamma teaching, we listen very well when the teaching is given. Then your mind grows up and up. You are on the way to enlightenment, That's what the Buddha said. So remember, be patient. Listen to what the person has to say first, and then after that you can comment or explain or advise or whatever. So remember these 2 points. Be patient to always listen when you need to listen attentively and with focused attention. That's a very important second Dhamma teaching here. We must be mindful and heedful of our speech. Of course, very important, we must know what we are going to speak. Now, in this case here, the word mindful is not just being aware and knowing, it's remembering. Remembering what we have been told. In this case, the geese had already warned the tortoise, isn't it? On the journey, shut your mouth, do not speak. So the tortoise did not carry out the instructions. And the reason, of course, is because of trace to the mind. The mind is reacting to what the children are talking, isn't it? What the children said about him. So he was angry already, so no mindfulness already. He forgets that he is biting onto the stick. So he already in the mind planning to say these things and scold the children. And the next thing is everything all starts with the mind. So as the mind has these things already, then it is carried out in the speech. And then in certain cases, you find people will carry out bodily action. They will slap the fella, fight with the person because his mind has got angry already. He's reacting to what is said or what he sees. So this reacting without wise thinking and without patience and metta will bring you a lot of suffering and dukkha. So that is a very important Dhamma teaching. So remember, practice mindfulness. So if the turtle had practiced mindfulness, right? No doubt he might be angry already, but then the mindfulness go is like, I know I'm biting this, I remember the geese told me not to speak, because when I speak, if he's mindful, then he won't die. So you see, lack of mindfulness can cause you great suffering and even death in this case here. And we must always be very careful, cautious of what we speak. Of course, if you speak in anger, irritation, ill will, then you get the effects. That's, for example, if a person blames you or say something about you that is not correct. Now, if you get angry and then you retaliate or you say the bad things, and then the person gets angry again, in the end, two will fight and one may be killed. So as you have heard among cases of road bullies, arguing, shouting at another, in the end, one fellow will take the tool, the car tool, spanner or whatever, hit on the head and kill him off. So we have to be patient, watch the mind, and then we avoid doing those very dangerous things because of the mind. And then you're not careful, it comes out in the speech and then the bodily action. So you must be very cautious, careful of the speech. There is a Japanese proverb that says, the tongue may be only 3 inches long, but the tongue can kill a man 6 feet tall. Oh, because the mouth, wow, just speak all those terrible things, especially can cause a person to have heart attack or stroke. Or you can, sway the whole group emotionally, and they become angry and then go to war. No, in history, you have leaders they've gone all the terrible leaders like Hitler. Wow, rouse the emotion. And then in the country also you have people who speak terrible things and cause others to be angry. So it's very important. So now let us look at the fourth one. This is the most important slide actually. Practice right speech. I have spoken many times over the presentations about the importance of right speech. And the right speech is in the Noble Eightfold Path. You remember? The only path that will lead you to enlightenment, to perfect peace, happiness is the Noble Eightfold Path. And this is the factor in the morality part. Morality, you have right speech, right action, and right livelihood. So this concerns the speech. Since today's story is about speech, talkative, speaking mindlessly, unnecessarily. So now we have to reflect on practicing right speech, or in Pali we call sama vacha, 正义啦. Now, no lying, right? That's a very important thing. No lying. And then no slander, to carry tales, to talk bad about other people, to speak using divisive speech, speech that causes two groups or two people to quarrel, to break the harmony. That is also terrible. These are all actually actions of the speech, bad karma. So you have to avoid this. And the third one is no harsh speech, to use terrible words, bad words, vulgar words, words that are very abusive, that hurt the feelings of other people. Opposite will be kind, gentle speech. So this harsh speech are many, from young, they don't train. So what happens? When they grow old, still using harsh speech, bad speech. I remember, as I've said before, when I was transferred to St. Anthony's way back in 1992. So, I was in charge of the science department. I had to go to the labs to prepare early morning while the students were waiting outside to enter the labs. Because of the bad habits, they would shout here and there. And then worse, they use vulgar words, talk vulgar things with their friends. They spoke in Cantonese. I cannot say all those bad words. They scold the mother's body parts. So that is not good. It's not a good karma action. No gossip, Well, very often the gossip has no basis, no? Just for fun. Talk about people. Worst thing, carry out the rumors, rumor mongering, and then cause people's mind not to be peaceful, not to be calm, not to be loving. All, this gossip is wasting the time and energy of yourself. So these are the 4 things that we must be careful about. We got to right speech. No lying, no slander, no harsh speech, no gossip. All right. Now let us go on to the 5th one. We must resolve to get rid of bad habits in our speech and actions. All of us, young and old, we have good qualities as well as bad qualities. No such person as a person is, unless you're a Buddha or Arahant, you have perfect good things, no wrong or poor qualities. So no so-called good person is free from some bad things also. And then you say that person is bad, but he actually also has some good things. So the wise person will try to look into his mind and heart to see what are the bad habits. Now in this case here, let's concentrate on the bad habits regard to speech and the action. Like regard to the speech, for example, using bad words I told you just now, or over talking, never let other people have a chance, that's a bad habit. Always interrupting at the wrong moment, very often now, because they have been like that. I remember also some children, from young not trained. So, let's say 2 teachers are talking, or 2 teachers talking. So this child will come and interrupt. Sir, I want you to answer this. People are talking serious things and they're interrupting. I remember also even the family members. Once I remember there was this friend of mine, right? So we were discussing very important things. So the son will come along and pull on to the clothing, the dress, or the shirt, or the sari, or whatever of the mother. Mommy, I want this. I want like that one. I mean, they're interrupting. Bad habit of interrupting, of not waiting, isn't it? And the parents have not educated them on this. So when they grow up, they'll be like this also. They always interrupt a speech. Before listening completely, they already interrupt and then cannot get the message clearly. So any bad habit of the speech, we must be mindful not to use vulgar words. Now so often they use 4-letter words, right? Anything that doesn't seem to go right, they will say, like that. Use 4-letter words. That's very, very terrible, isn't it? And then some people no patience. They always like to scold people, They cannot practice gentle speech. That's a bad habit that always raise the voice, And then people have the bad habit of speaking so loudly when they should not. I experienced this in a meditation retreat. You have some people in the kitchen, speak so loudly, whereas the quiet meditation is going on. Why? Because that person has the bad habit. Sometimes you need to speak very loudly, fair enough, when you're giving a talk, or the person is, at a distance, you want to call the person. So that's all pertains to wisdom. So many things about the speech. This story here is being very talkative, speaking unnecessarily. And then some like to gossip, the habit of gossiping, So you have to be mindful and make the resolution. I must not be like that because it will cause me pain and suffering. It's bad karma, and then also I can hurt other people. Once you have that program, mindfulness, then you cut already. You get off the bad habit and replace by good habit. And not only in terms of speech, but also your action. Like for example, right? Some people, well, when they, not happy, they will kick this, kick that thing. I've seen that in school also, bad habit. And then also some students I've seen also in my class, when the lesson is going on, they listen, when they are supposed to listen attentively, they will play with the ball points, don't know how they will twist the ball points, and then distracting other people. Well, that is also a wrong bodily action. You are disturbing the concentration of other people. And then some worse, you have the bad habit of always coming late, not being punctual. That is a wrong bodily action. So it's all these bad habits, especially acquired when you were young, and unfortunately not corrected by the parents or by people who are close to them. Teachers a bit difficult because you only see them once a while only. But we also try our best. So once you are able to get rid of all the bad habits, your speech becomes really good, right speech, and all your actions also are very, very good. Now there's a transformation of your character. And that is what Dharma practice is all about, to transform the character, to change your moral conduct. Then you become like a God, a heavenly being, and you are generating good karma. And you have good karma, then the blessings will come. So you see, people who have the wrong understanding, they think that, oh, I can get blessings or get all the so-called luck by going to pray often. Can't. Now, if a student is lazy, he doesn't have the habit of doing his homework in time, well, and he doesn't have the habit of being very hardworking, disciplined, and all these, no such good habits. And then every time he just goes to pray, pray at this temple, pray at this church, or pray at this whatever religious organizations. We pray and pray, oh God, please give me all A's for my exam, SPM or whatever exam. So pray, but doesn't have the habit of studying hard. So can you get all the A's? You can't, isn't it? Common sense will tell you that. So you remember, very important to look into our mind, and then also to study our own character. What are the weaknesses everybody has? And then to resolve, to take steps. You say, oh, I must change. But if you don't have the discipline and the strong will to change, then it's still the same. Every time I make a mistake, sorry. All the 1,000 sorries make no sense because no change has come about. So that is a very important point. So I've spoken at length with regard, this is the most important slide. Right? I've spoken the most important things, the Dharma, the practice. Starting just a story, a simple story. So this may not be directly connected to the story, but it has a connection, it has a bearing. So before we conclude, I would like to wish all of you, may you be well, happy, and peaceful. Now, before we say sadhu, now I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the students, whether Sunday school, especially maybe standard 5, standard 6, the secondary students of the Dhamma classes, or even college students, right? University students, even though the story is supposed to be a children's story, but the Dhamma lessons and apply to everybody. I have some reports about from some adults. They say they like the children's stories. They are adults, I have former students that tell me this because they are very important Dhamma lessons. Fine. I also read the children's stories, but I think about the Dhamma, right? So now we have already thanked, we will thank again all the students, right, of Buddhist Sunday School, Dhamma classes, all the parents, grandparents who are teaching the young ones, and also the teachers and everybody who is following this presentation. We'd like to thank you for being patient, and then for your energy, effort in following this presentation until the end. All right. So let us put our palms together and say sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May you be well, happy, and peaceful. Take care.